almost 10,000 petabyte of data every month. So 10,000 petabyte into 1,000 terabyte. So that is the kind of data which we generate every month. So the data explosion is real, and it is across the enterprises and consumer segment. Today, approximately 40 to 50% of IT infra is outsourced. Some of that is outsourced through data center co-location with players like us. Some of that is outsourced to cloud players as public cloud, which in turn host on us. But the IT infrastructure outsource acceleration is real. And this is driven by multiple factors. One, of course, are the traditional factors, traditional drivers like TCO, scalability, availability, anywhere access, which is continuing to drive this outsourcing. Second are the drivers which we have experienced in the last 2 years related to pandemic, which has forced every organization to rethink and adopt digital transformation and make it actually work. Third, we have also started seeing new technologies like IoT, AI, ML, which is further accelerated by the 5G and network boom. Every industry is gearing to use these. So that is driving this entire data growth and outsourcing. The good news is that there are multiple drivers. There's not a single driver, and which will ensure that both the IT infra outsourcing and the data explosion continues to remain very, very relevant, and even will continue to accelerate over the next couple of years. First, building data center is a capital intensive business. So that is point number one, that it's capital intensive, and then it keeps on getting multiplied into the number of cities where you want to be operating. Second, it takes time to build scalable DCs. For a new DC to go live, it typically takes 2 years of time. So there is a lead time for people to build the data centers. It is true for players like us. It is also true for enterprises who want to build their own captive DCs. And third, it takes skills, and it is costly to operate a 24/7 data center and provide 100% uptime to the users. So it's not an easy task for any organization to just say that they will build a DC which is scalable, which provides 100% uptime, which also is cost effective, and which also gives them a quick, faster time to the market. And that is where the co-location players bring their value. They try to help these, they try to solve these problems. Second, we provide them economy of scale. We run 200 megawatt, or we today run 200 megawatt of IT capacity, and we're going to double it in next 2 to 3 years. This kind of scale is not possible for any individual organization to achieve if they build their own captive DCs. And lastly, of course, because we run such huge infra, we offer a design and operational excellence. We are running these for almost 15 years now. And all this excellence, design excellence, operational excellence is offered to our customer as part of our services. Even during lockdown, we maintain 100% uptime through these strong processes. It is, of course, centered around 3 pillars of environment and social and governance. On the environmental side, we have pledged to have carbon neutral DC operations by 2030. So that is the pledge which we have taken. We have already achieved approximately 40% renewable usage, renewable energy uses across our businesses, and we want to take it up to 60% by 2025. So in the next 3 to 4 years, we want to take it up to 60%. So that is on the environment side. On the social side, of course, we offer an inclusive workplace, a safe workplace, a secure workplace. That is something which we offer. We promise world-class safety practices in construction and operations. We get ourselves certified to all these relevant safety standards. But apart from that, we also lead many locally relevant social contributions like skill development to contribute back to the community where we operate. Now, for example, we have a center of excellence in our Bangalore facility, which is a 50 people training center. And what we do is that we train people on data center operations and data center construction. And there is a dearth of such resources in India. The demand and the requirement is increasing exponentially, but the people required to fulfill those demands are on the lower side. So that is how we are contributing back to the industry as well as the society. And on the governance front, I think it's very clear. We run an ethical and responsible operations. For our customers, we are committing that we'll be 100% ensuring effective data security and privacy. So it is a comprehensive policy. Obviously, environmental side is something which is most talked about today, and that's where we are pledged to be carbon neutral by 2030. We can be the data center industry for the world, so we can be provider for the world. Today, we provide data center services for Indian users typically, unlike US, for example, which provide data services for the world. So I think we should target moving towards that side, and that will happen when setting up the infrastructure becomes easy, when power becomes more cost effective. The government has already announced infra status for DC providers, so effective implementation of that policy will also help. And lastly, and not the least, as I stated earlier, there is a dearth of skilled DC construction and operation resources. The skill development initiative at a larger scale will definitely help this booming industry, both for job seekers and also for DC providers. It's a win-win situation for that. So I think government has already started doing initial steps, but if we focus more on these items, then the growth can even further be accelerated. Technically, there is a strong, I would say, benefit of storing the data locally and even applications locally. It's no-brainer. Commercially as well, there can be advantages of data localization. Storing data locally can provide Indian businesses with skilled talent at a lower cost. So we can be the again manpower provider for these technologies. So technically and commercially, it makes sense mostly. And then comes the legal and regulatory drivers. There are already mandatory guidelines actually in BFSI, telco, government for data localization, which are already being followed by enterprises. And further, as we know that there are more regulations, and those are in the final stages, which ask for specific data to be stored and processed within India. So it is real. The data localization is real. It has already happened in some form or shape, and it is going to be again one more driver because of which the organizations have already made and are making their concrete data management plans to comply to these guidelines. So as a co-location service provider specifically, we help the customers or these organizations meet their technical, commercial, and regulatory goals. We give them best-in-class service that have necessarily certifications like ISO and other compliances mandated by regulatory authorities. There are two types of DCs which support this movement. At the center, it needs, or at the core, it needs highly scalable compute power for data storage and analytics, which is provided by large-scale DC campuses, and they are typically in metros today in India at least. These are huge campuses of 3 to 4 data centers of going up to 100 megawatts, and they provide highly scalable compute power. But then what is becoming interesting is that at the edge, which are smaller centers, could be tier 2, tier 3, what is being needed are the edge DCs. So multiple smaller DCs, hundreds, thousands of smaller DCs are needed or will be needed, that will be placed closer to the devices, and it will provide the edge capabilities to end users. So the function of data center is going to expand. The core at the center is going to be there. It is going to further increase its size because the amount of data it will get, amount of compute requirement it will get will be huge. At the edge level, more and more smaller DCs will have to be created, and those DCs will be closer to the devices, IoT devices or 5G devices, and they will provide those last mile compute or storage or the caching capabilities to end users.